Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत आदाब, नमस्कार and प्यार भरा good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. You're listening to Apna Radio broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. So, another week, I am here and I hope you are there too. All the way in Delhi, in London and in New York and in Los Angeles or Melbourne. A lot of people are listening me on my YouTube eventually, not live, but they're listening me. So I'm very welcome to join me again. Doesn't matter which part of the world you are joining me in. And of course, here in Dublin and in the UK. So what is happening in our lives? Our lives are very much alive and kicking. And indeed, because of whatever is happening in the world, we try not to be affected by all of that, because if you do get affected by the depressing side of the news, as they say that in the news, one has to be upbeat, positive, and indeed tell the truth of the world, but not to be disturbed and depressed. Because as a broadcasters, as a media people, we are dealing with the information, and sometimes it's not so good, sometimes it's bad, worse, depressing, and very, 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 very psychologically get affected. But I would do my best not to drag you in there, although Charmaine is there to tell you the state of the world in India with the news items. So Charmaine, take it away.
Good afternoon. Here is your weekly news update. I'm Charmaine Colvin and you are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. Following the atrocious attack on August the 9th of the rape and murder of a female trainee doctor in the eastern city of Kolkata, India's Supreme Court has created a hospital safety task force to ensure the safety of medical workers. The violent murder caused national outrage and protest by doctors and the general public, with many medics refusing to see non-emergency patients in protest. A police volunteer has been arrested for the brutal attack, and the federal police have taken over the investigation. The huge public outcry over violence against women has many parallels with the outpouring of anger which followed the gang rape and murder of a 23-year-old student on a moving bus in New Delhi in 2012. Chief Justice Chandrachud, who headed the court proceedings, said, "If women cannot go to a place of work and be safe, then we are denying them the basic conditions of equality." Although the court has asked for the task force to make sweeping reforms, many junior doctors do not believe legislation alone will address the problems of inadequate healthcare, funding and staffing, and are planning to keep demonstrating. The Supreme Court has directed the federal police to submit a report on the status of its investigation in the trainee doctor's killing. It has also ordered a federal paramilitary force to be deployed at the hospital where the crime took place to provide security to female doctors who complain they did not feel safe after the crime, and vandalism at the hospital carried out by unidentified men. The court suggested the task force should consider safety measures, including separate resting rooms for female staff, adequate lighting across the campus, CCTV coverage, and the creation of employee panels to conduct quarterly safety audits. The safety panel have 2 months to submit their final report. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said he will share perspectives on the peaceful resolution of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia during his visit to Kyiv this week, more than a month after he travelled to Moscow. Modi has departed for Poland and intends to visit Kyiv on Friday, marking the first trip to the Ukraine by an Indian Prime Minister since diplomatic relations were established more than 3 decades back. Modi's visit last month to Moscow drew criticism from the US and Ukraine's President Zelensky, as it coincided with a lethal Russian strike on a children's hospital in Kyiv. Modi did condemn the killing of innocent children, but he has not yet condemned Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, instead urging both sides to use dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the war. The prospect of India mediating to help end the war in Ukraine has been raised in diplomatic circles, but New Delhi has remained tight-lipped, saying only that it is willing to offer any support to resolve the conflict peacefully. Many experts believe Modi's trip is less about a new Indian peace initiative on Ukraine, but rather about boosting New Delhi's ties in Central Europe. India is planning to spend nearly $300 million in 2 years to expand water bodies like lakes and build drains in 7 cities, including Mumbai, Chennai and Bengaluru, to mitigate floods and conserve water. Flooding in India is often fatal every monsoon, as rapid urbanisation devours city, lakes and waste clogs drains. Such extreme flooding is often preceded by severe water shortages, particularly in recent years, especially in Delhi and Bengaluru, where once plentiful water storage spaces have shrunk. Ratings agency Moody's warned in June that India's growing water stress could affect its growth, which at a projected 7.2% this April-March fiscal year is the highest among major economies. The federal government spending, the first flood control measure focused on water bodies, was approved recently and will also incorporate early warning systems. Krishna Vatsa of the National Disaster Management Authority believes it could be one of the most significant approaches to flood mitigation in the cities. India's antitrust body has reached an initial assessment that the $8.5 billion Indian merger of Reliance and Walt Disney Media assets harms competition due to their power over cricket broadcast rights. It is the biggest setback so far to the planned Disney-Reliance merger, which aims to create India's biggest entertainment player, which will compete with other heavyweights such as Netflix, Amazon and Sony. The Competition Commission of India has asked the companies to explain within 30 days why an investigation should not be ordered. The merged company, which would be majority-owned by Asia's richest man, Mukesh Ambani's Reliance, would have lucrative rights worth billions of dollars for the broadcast of cricket on TV and streaming platforms, raising fears over pricing power and its grip over advertisers. A new study published in Journal of Transport Geography reveals remarkable insights about school-going children and cycling in rural India. The study found that the most notable rise in cycling in India has occurred among rural girls, increasing more than 2 times from 4.5% in 2007 to 11% in 2017, reducing the gender gap in the activity. Shrishti Agrawal, one of the authors of the report, said, "This is a silent revolution because cycling levels increased among girls in a country which has high levels of gender inequality in terms of female mobility, outside the home in general and for cycling in particular." State-run free bicycle distribution schemes since 2004 have targeted girls who had higher school dropout rates than boys due to household chores and exhausting long walks. This approach isn't unique to India. Evidence from countries like Colombia, Kenya, Malawi and Zimbabwe also show that bicycles effectively boost girls' school enrolment and retention. But in India, the scale is unmatched. So that's all from me. Tune in next week for more news stories. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Indeed. And thank you very much indeed, Charmaine, for a lovely, lovely news item that you have actually put together. And that is amazing statistics that how girls who are doing bicycling have really, have a higher percentage in the, school participation and indeed fighting the household chores. As you quite rightly have said, that is the case for girls and not for the boys, and because inequality exists in a country like India. Now, that is changing, and that's a good news. And also, what we have inherited, colonialism. You'll be frightened to hear what Sharad has put together, the actual colonial mindset and what has happened, how we lost our sovereignty to the British Raj, to the so-called the Queen Victoria at the time, when they have gradually invaded through the excuse of trade, East India Company and all that. Those, if you know the history of Indian colonialism. Sharad has put together a very interesting point there, and what is happening now comparatively in terms of exactly sort of following on the same footprints, but in a different way. So sit back, relax, and listen to what he has to say.
Good to be here again while we are celebrating our hard-won independence, the 78th Independence Day. We must reflect on the lessons of history. The mistakes we made some 250 years ago have led to the loss of our freedom. and our sovereignty. And today we must ensure we don't repeat these mistakes. Thank you, friends, for joining us again this week. Last time we discussed India's remarkable transformation over past 78 years. Today we will research seriously into how India, in the first place, became a colony of Britain, Dutch, the French, and the Portuguese. We must understand the past to safeguard our future, and therefore we will be drawing parallels between the policies that paved the way for colonial rule then and the risk of some of our current economic strategies. We live in a free country and we should have the power to say things which people don't want to hear. So, with that spirit of George Orwell, 1984, let's turn our attention to India of 1600s. The East India Company's journey to domination can be broadly divided into three phases, as I see. The first phase, from the early 1600s until 1757, the Battle of Plassey, which changed the course of East India Company. It saw the company's gradual amassing economic power, which it used to build a formidable military. The second phase, I would say, is marked by exploitation, where East India Company systematically dismantled Indian industries and impoverished our craftsmen. The third phase began after 1857 mutiny, leading to the British Raj, where exploitation intensified even though the voices of Indian independence grew louder. Today, we will focus on a period of 1600s to 1757, particularly the economic policies and the trade practices that allowed East India Company to gain such influence. What was the philosophy, the principles behind those economic policies? One crucial mistake at the time was granting trading privileges to East India Company by the Mughal Emperor then, Jahangir. These privileges, including duty-free trade in certain regions, enabled the company to accumulate enormous wealth and resources, which they later used to exert political and military influence. Over time, then many rulers became economically dependent on European trade goods and military supplies, making them vulnerable to British pressure. Europe, from its being, have always been in a war with a high sense of insecurity. Therefore, their arms, their military strategies, and the goods have always been marked with innovation. Therefore, when those military supplies came to India, our rulers and kings were very happy with the performance. This East India Company exploited this dependency. It helped them gain territorial control, demanding land in return and political authority for this continued economic benefits. Now, fast forward to today, we see parallels in how India has opened its door to foreign trade. First, by signing many agreements like the WTO, the TRIP, and the most favored nation treaties with different countries. While these agreements initially bring a feel-good factor with those shiny new goods or a spike in the trade, they often erode indigenous talent, craftsmanship, and innovation. Just as India once lost its industries to foreign dominance, today our traditional agricultural practices, in fact traditional crops, specialized metalworks, alloys, and textiles are at risk of being overshadowed by foreign goods and technologies. Silk, cotton, these fibers are now competing with the world market. Consider the case of genetically modified crops that are being approved after this budget of 2024. So these modern seeds introduced are under the guise of innovation and they clearly threaten to displace traditional crops. In fact, they are banned in Europe. And this is just as the East India Company once displaced Indian industries. I would like to cite the Gujarat potato farmers' legal battle against PepsiCo over the patented seeds. And it is a stark reminder of how foreign corporations, companies can dictate terms, can enforce their terms, their policies. It took a lengthy legal battle and a semi-revolution in order to stop PepsiCo from demanding the farmers from their right to grow crops. Imagine now the impact of 109 foreign crops, genetically modified crops, that are allowed to come into India in the name of innovation, and how it will rule our agriculture for decades to come. Like the exploitation of raw materials in the colonial era, today the exploitation of Indian labor, when I say labor, it is the well-educated, highly qualified Indian youth, engineers, scientists, IT professionals. They mirror the exploitation of those days. They are forced to work for global giants, and the benefit that they get do not percolate down into the real infrastructure of India, or rather it is minimal. We are only seeing pockets of development in large cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Gurgaon, etc. While these wages offered by foreign corporations may be enticing, lucrative in comparison, but then they are just about one-tenth the value these corporations would have paid for the same work back home in their country. So like the rulers of old India, our government is often prioritizing short-term gains or the spike in their statistical numbers vis-a-vis the long-term sovereignty by allowing foreign corporations to benefit from our educated labor. And there is no meaningful transfer that is visible. So for example, Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer of F-16 fighter jets, not long ago, these aircraft threatened India's sovereignty through our western neighbor Pakistan. Today, the same company wants to manufacture parts of these jets in India without offering full technology offer. They also want to sell these fighter jets, upgraded fighter jets, F-21, to India, but not at a price in which they are manufactured in India. So we have a flaw in our policy towards these companies, and somebody else is dictating those tariff policy. This simply echoes the past when our rulers welcomed foreign trade. The influx of Chinese goods, they are appealing, they are fancy, but then they have been undercutting Indian innovation and economic sovereignty. Our telecom still runs few devices which are detrimental to the security of India, and those devices have been banned in Europe and in America for simple reason that the country's data might have a backdoor export to China's intelligence agencies. On the other hand, when foreign governments adopt protectionist policy, they face little opposition. So for example, America in last 8 years have given protection to their goods from the Mexican exports. They have given protection on the tariffs for the goods coming from China. Europe has slapped 50% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles in order to protect the Tesla vehicles. Yet in India, we struggle to protect even the prices of life-saving medicines. Therefore, the economic sovereignty is fragile, and it would not be hard to say that India's economy resembles that of 1600s in a troubling way. Only if our tariff sovereignty, our economic sovereignty were secure, our farmers would be exporting their tea, coffee, spices at a premium prices to the West. Our vehicles would be dominating the roads across the world. It would have been as expensive and as much as in demand like the Saudi oil. Talking of medicines, our traditional medicines should have been staples in the hospital across the developed nations. Rather, they are a taboo or considered as alternatives at best. One mistake by the divided India of 1600s costs us our freedom. It is a step-by-step approach to losing sovereignty. Therefore, we must ensure that the united India of 21st century does not repeat that mistake by compromising in any way our economic sovereignty in the name of foreign trade and foreign investment. Before I conclude, let me share a few more examples. In 1997, the Titan watches wanted to participate in the Basel Watch and Jewelry Fair in Switzerland, but they were denied entry. And the reason being that Indian watches were competitive because the labor in India is cheap, the production cost is low, and the quality of Indian watches were at par with the international standards. Similarly, we narrowly avoided losing our basmati rice to US company's patent. We have been facing challenges with the patents, with the biopiracy for turmeric and the healing properties of turmeric. As we speak, India is negotiating a trade deal with Britain where we are in a risk of flooding our markets with cheap apples, and that could devastate the farmers of Himachal Pradesh and Kashmir. Our northern neighbors, economic might of China, they have not let their economic sovereignty leave their shores. According to the latest report, China is building 240 super fighter jets every year that can take on the best fighter jets in the world. So tell me, dear friends, who can dare the Chinese? I'm not against collaboration or joint ventures. They are welcome. But then any attempt to override the interests of Indian craftsmen, Indian engineers, scientists, Indian farmers, or erode our traditional knowledge base, they must be prevented. Being protectionist about one's economy and population is not a dirty word, I would say, despite what modern economists might suggest. India is a land of rich natural and human resources, and leaving our doors wide open could take us back to the era of colonial past. Thank you for joining me today, dear friends. Next week, we will continue to explore the lessons from the India's colonial past, ensuring that we safeguard our nation's hard-earned freedom for generations. Bye for now.
That is something that I wanted to talk about it because these are the friends who, time to time, remind me that if you're living abroad, they send me this interesting information. If you're living abroad in, it doesn't matter which part of the world, as an NRI. NRI is non-residence Indian. Worldwide, we are something like 50 million plus people. US, UK, Singapore, Middle East, Europe now increasingly have a huge population of Indians working and living and indeed amassing, accumulating the wealth. So what do you do when you have a surplus wealth? Or what do you do with this? You talk to financial sketchers, people like them. They are expert in India. A team led by Mr. Anil Kumar Singh and his group led by, in Noida, in India and Delhi. So they will look after your insurance requirements, your investment requirements. Talking about the investment, let me tell you a very crude, should I say, a reality. In Europe, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank, you do not earn any single cent interest because Europe is loaded and surplus with the cash, and therefore central bank does not allow you, and therefore our banks here in Dublin and in Ireland do not put any, give you any returns on your surplus income or surplus investment in your bank. So your fixed deposit income could be, fixed deposits could be 100,000, 200,000, 50,000, 10,000, doesn't matter exactly the figure. You will not earn a single cent interest on that. However, in India, it is a crucial thing because in India, the culture of Byaj is interest. In Indian culture is very big, and therefore the economy of this massive country actually runs on that philosophy. So therefore, you can earn up to 7%, 8%, 6%, 4% on your dead money that has been lying in some dormant accounts or some fixed deposit accounts, FD as we call it. FD there, it becomes double in 5 years' time. Here, FD means nothing. I was tempted to say F all, but no, it means nothing because you do not earn any interest on your cash lying in your bank as a dead money. So therefore, financial sketches are there, and I'm happy to actually keep letting you know for the next few weeks, in fact, who they are, what they are and how to reach them, you can actually Google them, and I will give them the details next week as well. Indeed, welcome back to the program. That is Dublin South FM, broadcasting at 93.9 from Dundrum Town Centre. So, what are we doing this week and this month? And as you know, we celebrated the 15th of August, which is the Independence Day of India. And what does it mean to be independent when you cannot actually do anything independently? In other words, you can't actually go to a workplace and get mobbed and raped and things like that. So this is a very complex world of society we live in India. However, because of the large population of 1.5 billion people, something happened in Calcutta. A doctor girl get raped and get murdered. Has hardly have any, although it stirred a huge emotion worldwide, but different parts of India, not a huge reaction as such, but it was a national news and all that. Why it happens is my concern. Are the people who do this kind of thing, are they programmed, cultured, cultivated, deliberately do it in order to badmouth the state in which they have a problem there and things like that? Or is it politically motivated? Because politically motivated incident like that is the actual name of the game. In certain countries, if you see, what happens is that Calcutta has been run by a non-BJP party, and Mamata Banerjee has actually have a huge differences with the Modi government, BJP, and so therefore she is under huge attack. So as Mahua Moitra of the Trinamool Congress Party, who's also running from Bangladesh, not Bangladesh, beg your pardon, I must say that, beg your pardon, Bengali community in Calcutta. Bangladesh, I'll talk about that in a minute because in the context of my film festival. But just to concentrate on that why it happened in Calcutta, and it created an uproar because of that. So culprit are fought and being caught, and then they've been put in jail or whatever the punishment will be. Somebody sent me an interesting sketch that in different country the rape has got death penalties. Neighboring Saudi Arabia, many other countries, and what do? We actually garnered. We put malas on the neck of those guys. I'm referring to the one whose incident happened in the past. Anyway, that's a big problem that is happening. But let me move on to a very, 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 very important aspect of our program, and that is the song. I haven't played any song. So I'll be playing the first song of I'm in the Mood to Be with Kishore Da today. Sagar Jaisi Aankhein Wali. Beautiful song. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular song. जी हमारे भाई नीले नीले अंबर पर चांद जब आए ऐसा कोई साथी हो. ये साथी जो है ना बड़ी अजीब सी चीज़ है. इनफैक्ट कभी कभी ये होता है, कभी कभी ये नहीं होता है. जिनकी ज़िंदगियों में एक ऐसा अच्छा साथी होता है, उनकी ज़िंदगियाँ संवर जाती हैं. और मैं What happened? I'm talking in the अपनी ज़बान में मैं बोलने लगा. But गाने की वजह से then I just swing into our language. But I try not to say too much in Hindi because our listeners are mainly English listeners. But that's what it is. What he's talking about in the song that Neele Neele Ambar Pe, in other words, the lover and the companion and the relationship is so important in life that it just lifts up the individual because it's the whole thing is about couple. Couple is like you have two hands, you have two bicycle of two wheels, you have everything in twos. And but individuals, it's arguable. Anyway, it's a big topic. It's a big topic, and I always sometimes pick up this topic because I brood over these issues all the time. Is the single life is better? Is the double life is better? Life with a couple is better? Is husband and wife, partners, you name it, are living more satisfying life, more happy life, or more painful life, because not always is hunky-dory. Not always it's straightforward. Not always. It requires a lot of work. But it's a magic when it gels into each other. When two people are really into, and I've seen it, such lovely couples. So many friends of mine, when my poor lady was alive, my wife, 5 years ago, she's no longer with me. But when we were there, together, and I, because we used to visit the couples, and there are things when people visit couples and do things together in a family manner. The emphasis on the family. Family is very important because everywhere here in Ireland, in India, and generally speaking, although you have an option not to have a family, in fact, but if you have children, you devote yourself with them and you work and enjoy them. But believe you me, the companionship is so important because you can bounce back the ideas, you can bounce back the problems of life, day-to-day lives that you face. God forbid that you do have any problem, but life is a problem itself, and therefore you do need somebody to share with you something. And what is the better person other than your other half, as they say, your better half, ardhangani in Hindi, sharik hayat in Urdu. All of those words are beautiful words. Sharik hayat, यानी कि hayat आपकी जो existence है उसके अंदर जो है वो, that is something which is unbelievably a beautiful term. So anyway, if that happens, you really are a blessed person. And indeed, people should try to live a blessed life. Doesn't matter who you are, live with and all that. So there you go. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular song. Kishore is still with. Ya mere bhaiyon, kabhi alvida na chalte chalte mere ye geet yaad rakhna, kabhi alvida na kehna. And this is what it is, that the couple who is together sometime do get depart. Sometimes they break up, sometimes the divorce happens, sometimes a very painful divorce usually, and particularly in this part of the world, and sure in our culture too, the differences occur. But why does a differences occur when two people are loving, respecting, and really, one should not go into a relationship or into a couple situation if they're not smitten by each other, if they're not really mad about each other, if they're not going to make a huge hey if they get up in the morning next to each other in the bed and see each other's face and realize that what a wonderful world we live in. So that kind of commitment and that kind of thing that people do have, only then they should have this kind of. But sometimes see, the people, they said that men are from the Mars and women are from Venus and all that difference because there are two genders. Hormonally, we tick differently. Psychologically, we are different and all that. But somehow the other, when the two people, as I said, submit to each other, love each other dearly in their hearts and hearts, they do really become a nice couple. And indeed, they become the life becomes wonderful. Now, the next song that I'm going to play is क्या यही प्यार है. जी हाँ बहनों भाइयों, अब मैं पहुंच गया उसी पॉइंट के ऊपर जो मैं कहने वाला था. The point that I wanted to I want to talk about it. जी हाँ बहनों भाइयों, यही होता है. That is what exactly happens. What the song was talking about is that the time doesn't pass, the heart doesn't really doesn't feel like doing anything, and it's not really in tune with myself when you're not around. So what a beautiful way of expressing togetherness. And the point I was trying to talk about it earlier on was exactly the same point, that how, if two people are really into each other, they cannot live without each other. Anyway, that is something which is very, very important, and I would always emphasize these points. Anyway, this is a togetherness. This is something people who are considering to be together are the tips for them. And my biggest tips is to be with Indian songs, because Indian songs, particularly the Bollywood songs of the 70s, 80s, Kishore Da, Rafi Saab, Lata Ji, and all that, is they are the soul of the Zindagi life. In fact, that's what it happens. And therefore, they exist in the, all radio stations, all radio programs. And Apna Radio is actually grateful to all these singers. If you think about it, most of them are no longer around. They're all gone, but their voices, their songs, particularly their hit numbers are very much. It's a pity that we don't listen to them too much. Some people are just too much into existential, things. Since morning, noon, and night, they're busy doing work. They're busy doing this, that, the other. But my point is that even if you're driving, just listen to the songs. Even if you're not doing anything, having shower or doing household chores, if you're alone, just listen to the songs. And I have a lovely couple friend, Surya Mahapatra and his beautiful wife, Sunita Mahapatra. And they both are the song lover people. And there's so much happiness in their lives. In their kitchen, they have lovely, lovely recordings of a system of Google, whatever. And the songs are playing all the times and everything. So do I. I also try my best. Certain times of the year, we don't do that because of the sad season of Muharram and Safar. That's the 2 months, in fact, in the lives of Shia Muslim, particularly Shia Muslims. And generally speaking, Muslims don't like to. There are a lot of theories about the songs are good or songs are bad. But for me, I cannot live without songs. So therefore, but Shias don't listen to songs. They are refrain from merrymaking. They refrain from, all of that. And so talking about that, this Sunday will be the Arba'een, the 40th day of Imam Hussein's Jehlum. Jehlum is the word in Urdu, and Arba'een is an Arabic word where people go to Arba'een walk in Karbala in Iraq, where the incident of Imam Hussein took place 1,400 years ago. And what is Jehlum? Jehlum is the time when the prisoners, after almost a year of that incident, less than a year in fact, or just over a year, following year in Muharram, in Safar, the month of Safar, they were released from the prison of Yazid and they returned back to Karbala to bury their heads of their shuhada, of their family members, Imam Hussein, his brother Abbas, his children, and all that has been given back, their heads, by the cruel ruler who severed their heads, and then they returned back to bury them. And so therefore the actual, the ceremony of burying their dead ones is considered a very pious one, and there are eulogies, there are talk about historical lessons, and indeed people remember what happened to them. And then they return back to Medina, which was their hometown. That's where they were uprooted from. So with that, we will be talking about that in a majlis, in a meeting. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about it, you're most welcome to come on Sunday at the Milltown Al Hussein House, which is at the Dodder Bridge around the corner from here. And then you're most welcome. It's in the evening, 6 o'clock, and I shall be talking about it as well, as I am delivering the lecture. And also there will be dinner will be served as well. So this is a somber time. After this, the official sad period get lifted up in a bit. Another 2 weeks after that, and then the month of Safar finishes, and the month of Rabiul Awwal starts. And after about an 8th of Rabiul Awwal, officially people can actually engage in marriages and attend parties, attend marriages, plan marriages, and be happy and be cheerful and be normal, in other words. And of course, we can listen to music as well. At least I can. So that's where I just wanted to tell in the end that Jehlum is coming as a very important day for Shia Muslims worldwide. And there's highly recommended to recite the ziyarat of Arba'een, which is a very pious ziyarat. You can Google it. Ziyarat is Zyrat. Ziyarat literally means visiting. And at the moment, as we speak, there are about 40 million people visiting Karbala, the holy shrine of Imam Hussein in Karbala. And therefore, a lot of people have gone from Ireland, from UK, from all over the world, India, Pakistan, you name it, Europe, America, Canada. They're all there at the moment, and they all wanted to be there at the Holy Shrine of Imam Hussein, just for their own happiness, just for their own sake of paying homage and repeating the tradition of burying their dead on the day of Arba'een. So there you go. Now, time is nearly up, and I've got about 3 minutes to left, and I do want you to listen to the song, Ye Sham Mastani, because Ye Sham Mastani aane wali hai. I'll be talking about in the next program, back-to-back, the 15th Indian Film Festival of Ireland that is happening from 3rd of October to the 5th of October here at the UCD cinemas. But no time today, because I do really want to dabble greatly into the detailed program. So hopefully I'll be talking about it next week. But so far, so good. Plan is to listen to the song and allow me to go home. Bye for now.
You are listening to 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Broadcasting from the Dundrum Town Centre. This is Dublin South FM.